Okay, before we get started, this account was created to provide information on how current immigration laws apply to certain factual scenarios. There are many people, I suspect, who are worried about their immigration situation but are not sure if they should speak with an immigration attorney. Keep in mind, and I cannot stress this enough, that immigration law is unbelievably fact-specific. So even if the hypothetical that I analyze here sounds nearly identical to your situation, you still need to speak to an immigration attorney. The smallest factual differences can change everything. That said, this is not legal advice. I'm merely hoping to educate some people on how the immigration laws work, because I know that a lot of anxiety exists out in certain immigrant communities. Also, immigration laws and procedures will likely change significantly over the next few months, so what might be accurate and current at the time of recording could be outdated in the weeks to come or even tomorrow. Okay, so you've got your interview scheduled with USCIS. This could be for naturalization, it could be for a green card, an adjustment of status. Let's go over some things to keep in mind, some do's and don'ts, okay? So for any type of interview, generally they don't want you to try and enter the building more than 30 minutes before your interview is scheduled. Okay, keep that in mind when you are planning your drive there, how long it's going to take, when you want to arrive. Different offices will have different wait times. Okay, so the Orange County office, where I do probably about 85% of my cases, the wait time is maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get through security. The Los Angeles office, where I probably do 10% of my cases, the wait time can be 30 minutes, an hour. It really depends, but you should really want to get there much earlier if you're at one of these offices that handles a tremendous amount of cases, okay, like Los Angeles, or I would imagine San Francisco, New York, some of those places. You should dress as though you're going to a job interview, okay? You don't need to wear a suit, you don't need to wear a pantsuit, you don't need to get completely dressed up, but dress well enough that you're telling the officer that this is a big deal to you, that this is really important to you and you take the process seriously. I don't think I've ever had one of my clients show up in anything inappropriate, but I've definitely seen other people in the waiting room that had tank tops on, had t-shirts, had sandals, things like that. The officers are wearing shirts and ties, and you should probably be dressed at least in the same ballpark as what they're doing. Once you go in, you'll go through security. You're going to show them your interview notice. They're going to ask you for ID. They're also going to ask you if you have any firearms, any explosives, anything like that. They're going to put your belongings through the metal detector. After that, you're going to go to the room and the floor that you were assigned. So again, depends on the office. The Los Angeles office is 8 floors of mostly immigration-related sub-agencies, you could say. Pay attention to which floor you're going to. Once you get there, that's where you're going to check in formally. So you're going to check in with the receptionist at the front. You're going to give that person the interview notice, and they're probably going to take a picture and scan your fingerprints to make sure that you're the right person that they're supposed to be talking to that day. Then they're going to ask you to take a seat. You could be waiting for 10 minutes, you could be waiting for 2 hours, okay? It really depends on the day, it depends on the office, it depends how busy they are, all right? So bring something to keep yourself busy. You are allowed to use phones, of course you can read a book, a Kindle, whatever, but plan to be there for quite a while before you're called back there. At some point the officer is going to come out, they're going to call the alien's name. So if this was a marriage-based case, they're not going to call the U.S. citizen spouse's name, they're going to call the alien that is applying for the benefit, the green card. At that time, that's when you are going to go back into the office. If it's a marriage-based case, your spouse should absolutely be with you. They're going to want to ask both of you questions. If this is a naturalization case, then you don't need anyone else there, okay? It's just going to be you. There are some caveats to that. If this was a case where the I-751 was still pending, then perhaps they might want to talk to the spouse, so you should have that person available. But as a general thing, they're only going to want to talk to the applicant when it comes to naturalization. You'll go back to their office. At that time, they are going to put you under oath. They're going to check your IDs once again, and then they're going to start the examination. So if it's a naturalization, they're generally going to do the test first. Okay, the civics test. They're going to ask you 10 questions and you have to get 6 right. If you get the first 6 correct, then you're going to do the written test and you're going to do the reading test. All right. After that, in a naturalization, that's when they're going to go over your application. So they'll go through the whole thing. Are you still living at this address? Do you want to change your name? Are you still married to this individual? Have you changed employers? They'll go through everything and see if anything has changed since you filed. All right. If you have taken trips since you filed, that would be the time to tell them, oh, by the way, we also took a trip out of the country for this many days and this is where we went, and they'll add that to your application. Then they're going to go through all the yes or no questions. Have you ever been a communist? Have you ever worked in a prison camp? Have you ever smuggled drugs? Have you ever been arrested? There's about 8 pages worth of yes or no questions, and most likely you answered no to almost all of those. But if you answered yes to 1 or 2 of those, you want to be listening especially for those questions, okay? So you can make sure you answer correctly. And they might have follow-up questions if you answered yes to any of those. Have you ever been arrested? Yes, I have, but the charges were later dismissed. Or yes, I have, but it was before I got my green card. So be prepared to talk about those things. If everything goes well during your interview, be prepared to take your oath that day, okay? After COVID, they started doing same-day oath ceremonies, okay? To avoid those big, giant convention centers filled with hundreds and hundreds of people taking the oath, they started doing oath ceremonies on the same day. So if everything goes well, you could be approved and they'll have you go to a different room to take your oath, and you'll actually walk out of that building with your naturalization certificate. After you've taken your oath and you have your naturalization certificate, you are now a citizen, okay? So you can take that naturalization certificate and now you can apply for your passport, and you'll be traveling in and out of the United States and other countries as a US citizen. So hope that helps. Good luck to everyone. I know these interviews can be stressful, but if you are prepared and you have no major issues in your case, then hopefully everything goes well. Take care.